Welcome back, viewers. If you'll remember, last week we talked about the recent allegations about missing persons at fazbear LLC's Mega Pizzaplex. If you didn't watch that video, at least 9 people are purported to have gone missing, having last been seen in or around the Mega Pizzaplex. Multiple charges from family members have been quietly dropped without explanation, and more than that, the reporter who covered the story was fired. Since that video, I've been doing more research into the history of fazbear, and guys, it is so much darker than I could have imagined. Let's get into it. Now, I personally don't remember the precursors to the Mega Pizzaplex, but my older viewers might remember the old Freddy Fazbear's pizza places that popped up around Utah in the early 80s and 90s. By far, the most successful location was the first Freddy Fazbear's in Hurricane, Utah. This location was beloved. All of the classic Freddy's characters we know and love that you can see remnants of in the Pizzaplex Museum made it big here. Chica the Chicken, Bonnie the Bunny, and of course, Freddy Fazbear himself. Now, just like last time, I started my search at the Mega Pizzaplex itself to get Fazbear's half of the story. The Rockstar Row wing of the Pizzaplex is dedicated to vintage Fazbear artifacts from the days of the early pizzerias. Listen to the audio recording they have playing about the final pizzeria and why it closed.
Fazbear Entertainment was a pioneer not only in robotic technology, but in the video arcade industry. While the beloved animatronics brought children in, the real profit was made off of sales from the pizza and arcade tickets. However, in the year 2021, the final Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opened and closed in the same year, having met with little commercial success. The rise of at-home gaming consoles, changing consumer tastes, and negligence on the part of multiple individual franchise owners posed significant challenges to the chain. Following a fire at the final location due to faulty wiring and improper ventilation, Fazbear Incorporated filed for bankruptcy and disbanded as a corporate entity. But the characters lived on in the hearts of children. The characters lived on.
According to Fazbear, the declining attendance of patrons was due to arcade machines no longer being able to compete with at-home gaming consoles, which is frankly an ironic thing to say when you can walk right across the atrium to the Fazcade and watch literally hundreds of kids playing on Pizzaplex arcade machines every single day. But the concerned parents at the 80s have not yet forgotten the real reason why people stopped going to the old Freddy's. In 1985, 5 children went missing. Bodies never found. Listen to this newspaper report I found from the University of Utah's digital archives. 5 children now reported missing. Suspect convicted. 5 children are now linked to the incident at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where a man dressed as a cartoon mascot lured them into a back room. While the suspect has been charged, the bodies themselves were never found. Listen to this. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has been fighting an uphill battle ever since to convince families to return to the pizzeria. It's a tragedy. That's why people stopped going to Freddy's, not because the NES came out, but because a bunch of children went missing. Sound familiar? 5 children missing from a Freddy's. Bodies not found. 9 residents missing, linked to the Mega Pizzaplex. But it gets deeper, because this newspaper was published anonymously, which got me super curious. And guys, I scoured the archives for other papers written around the 80s from the Spectrum and other newspapers that covered the Washington County area that seemed to be written in the same voice to try and figure out who the author was, and I had no luck. But instead, I found something else. Someone else. Someone who makes the suspicious firing of the reporter from last week seem like child's play. Her name was Bronwyn Light, and she was a junior news reporter for the Spectrum over several years. Only a handful of articles were published under her name, but I found 2 other articles that I am sure were ghostwritten by her, because in almost all the articles actually attributed to her, she includes some phrase like dig into the truth or sift the facts. Not only do these 2 articles have those phrases too, they totally don't match the tone of the attributed author, but I digress. Now, at first glance, you would not think Bronwyn is very related to Freddy's at all. Even though she was a reporter in Hurricane during the time of the most popular restaurants, she actually only ever wrote 1 article about a Freddy's, and it wasn't the popular location. Instead, it was about the hasty closing of an attempted comeback location after one of the animatronics caused a fatal brain injury to one of the employees. She interviews the 911 operator who took the call, named Wendy, which is crazy, because as you know, we've tried to learn information from 911 operators about the tragedies we cover here on this channel, and they are very serious about privacy and confidentiality laws. But Wendy openly gave details of the call to be published in a newspaper. I don't know about you, but I definitely wouldn't want her to be my 911 operator. You might be wondering, Candi, what does this have to do with anything? She only wrote 1 minor article about a Freddy's in Hurricane, and it's not even the restaurant location with the missing kids. Well, it's because while that's the only article I found written by Bronwyn about a Freddy's, before I found it, I found an article about Bronwyn and a Freddy's. I found an article written presumably by one of Bronwyn's own colleagues about her disappearance. That's right, Bronwyn Light went missing. What's so interesting is that the article I found references another article written closer to her disappearance in which they got an interview with Mrs. Light, Bronwyn's mother, but I could not find the original article anywhere. It's as if it doesn't exist at all, or like it's been scrubbed. And the only evidence it ever existed is this brief reference from a few months later. Listen to this. Mrs. Light established a scholarship for aspiring female journalists. In a previous article from November of last year, we interviewed Mrs. Karis Light regarding the disappearance of her daughter after her investigation into the mascot killer of 1985. Mrs. Light has established the Light Journalism Scholarship. This new scholarship aims to support, quote, smart, capable, and dependable young women pursuing higher education in journalism. The scholarship will provide financial assistance to high school seniors and college-bound women with a passion for journalism, recognizing their potential to become dependable, impactful voices in the field. Bronwyn's dedication to the truth was inspiring, said Mrs. Light. Her voice will be carried on by every young writer whose education is furthered by this scholarship. Bronwyn Light went missing after investigating the missing children's incident of 1985. And more than that, the article in which her mother, Karis Light, spoke about her work is erased from history. And if you can't guess by who, then you're drinking the fizzy faz. Not only is the original article interviewing Mrs. Light gone, Bronwyn doesn't have an obituary. If you start looking too deep into fazbear, past or present, and you start hitting too near the mark, you better watch your back. That's why I publish under the alias Candi, and why I work so hard to protect my devices. My privacy is my life, and when it comes to privacy, I trust today's sponsor, Smurf VPN. Ever feel like your online privacy is at risk? Whether it's browsing, shopping, or streaming, your data can be exposed. That's where Smurf VPN comes in. With just one click, Smurf protects your privacy and keeps your data safe. Protect the privacy of yourself and those you love. And remember, while the I in Candi may stand for investigative journalism, the U in Bunny stands for you can't protect yourself from fazbear if they find out your identity. So use code BUNNY2USE at checkout for 40% off your first 3 months of Smurf. Back to Bronwyn. The interview we just read about Mrs. Light references an older interview from November of the previous year. Assuming that interview took place shortly after Bronwyn's death, then there's another layer to this, because her death correlates with the opening of a third Freddy's location in that town. Let's look at our pieces here. A reporter named Bronwyn, obsessed with uncovering the dark history of fazbear. A company with a long-standing history of abducting and covering up murders at their location. A new Freddy's opening up in the same town as Bronwyn and the original missing children's incident. Clearly, Bronwyn is snooping around this new location, asking too many questions until she gets taken out by fazbear's hitmen. Are you seeing the pattern here? 5 children enter a Freddy's, are never seen again, and their existence is hushed up. The reporter that dares put this information in the papers publishes anonymously. One young reporter enters a Freddy's location, is never seen again, and if her mom hadn't been wealthy enough to make a scholarship in her honor, it would be like she never existed. The article that references her life and work is scrubbed from all public records. 9 people enter the Mega Pizzaplex and are never seen again. Their families' cases are shut down, and the reporter is fired. And this is the fazbear that our local politicians are raving about, saying an attraction of this scale boosts the economy and integrity of our town. The integrity of our town? Fazbear doesn't have an ounce of integrity throughout its entire endoskeleton. Excuse the outburst. I just don't understand how any concerned parent could, in good conscience, let their kids within 100 miles of the Mega Pizzaplex. That place should not be in business. Fazbear can try to scrub the records all they want. I will take up the mantle of Bronwyn Light and make sure this information is still out there. People need to know the truth. Wrapping up, let's paint the picture of Bronwyn's life and do justice to her memory. An aspiring journalist named Bronwyn Light takes up a job at the Spectrum where she shadows her mentor as they cover stories around Washington County, Utah. At first, she's not allowed to author under her own name, but does some writing for her mentor. Eventually, she works her way up to junior reporter with a few published articles. In 1987, she goes to a Freddy's location to report on its shockingly quick closure, and there her interest is piqued. She starts learning more about the company and its dark history, and becomes obsessed with trying to uncover the identity of the mascot killer of 1985. When a new location opens right in front of her face, it's like the universe is telling her that her pursuit is worth it. She pokes around the new location as soon as it opens, trying to find staff members and patrons who were around in 1985 to get them to talk. But the fazbear execs catch wind of what she's up to. On one of her excursions to meet a contact, she is intercepted by a hitman and taken out, never to be heard from again. She is survived by her mother, Karis Light, who makes a scholarship in her honor, and unknowingly preserves the message of her daughter to the present age. Rest in peace, Bronwyn. I hope you knew at the end that your search for truth was not in vain. If you want to keep up with my investigation of the dark dealings of fazbear and the Mega Pizzaplex, please subscribe to this channel and make sure to share this video with any parent you know who takes their kids to the Mega Pizzaplex. I have been Candi Bunny, and unless fazbear traces this video back to me, I'll see you next week.